Good morning and welcome to our seminar of today. Thank you to all of the attendees that are here with us and to Auxadi for joining us to speak about tax compliance and labor in 3 countries, Spain, United States, and Mexico. To address these matters, we have here today 3 experts from Auxadi. Auxadi is a firm that provides accounting, tax compliance, and payroll internationally in 50 countries. Our speakers today are Augusto Berutich, Head of Global Tax. He joined Auxadi in 2015 after developing his professional career at a Big Four for more than 20 years as director in the tax area. Augusto currently heads Auxadi's tax division from Madrid headquarters, leading a team of consultants providing services on transactional taxation and tax compliance at an international level. On the other hand, we have Silverio Salcedo. He comes from Monterrey, Mexico, where he degreed in business. After developing his professional career as an accountant in Mexico, he decided to move to Spain to obtain an MBA in International Business Administration, increasing this way his international expertise. He joined Auxadi in 2017 as part of the Auxadi's international desk team in Madrid headquarters. And nowadays, he's performing the role of manager, helping clients in their internationalization processes overseas. We also have today with us Ana Herrero. She joined Auxadi in 2014 as part of the real estate department in Madrid after finishing her master's in companies advisory from CEP. After developing her career in the real estate department as manager, she was promoted to multi-country manager. Recently, she moved to the Auxadi's Chicago office to support US accounts with operations in Latam. Today's webinar will last about an hour, followed by questions. If you have any question, you can send it to us through the control panel you have in your right, and you can send the questions at any time during the presentation, and then they will be answered at the end of the webinar. For your information, this webinar is going to be recorded and we will be sharing the video and presentation in a follow-up email after we finished. We also want to encourage all of our attendees to visit our website and check the activities that will be taking place in the following weeks. With all that said, Augusto, ready when you are.
Okay. So, Arantxa, thank you very much. Thank you very much to the US-Spain Chamber of Commerce for giving us the opportunity to share with all you this webinar on the different aspects relating to tax and labor issues related to the crisis. Let me just give my first words for all of you that may have suffered any losses throughout this extremely heavy crisis, and convey all Auxadi's feelings to those who are suffering out of the crisis as well. We would like also to thank you, those who are helping people in overcoming all these bad times we are suffering throughout this crisis that we hope will not be lasting very much from now. So, having said this, I would like to start our presentation by saying a little, trying to present shortly what Auxadi means for our attendees that may not know very well about what we are doing. We are an international firm now lasting for more than 40 years. We've been working to help our clients in their international operations in the fields of the tax compliance, accounting, bookkeeping, and payroll services throughout all the countries they operate. We use our technology in helping us to do this. We try to achieve all of this through the people we have. There are some figures we can show in the presentation, if we're able to move. Basically, these are key figures of our firm right now. More than almost 300 people working for more than 20 different countries. We are now owning 26 16 different subsidiaries in relevant countries, mostly in Latin and Europe, but we are serving clients in more than 50 countries throughout our network of partnerships and own network of offices. We go follow with the presentation. How we can do this throughout the technology. We have invested a lot of money in developing a simple, friendly, easy to use, ready to use technology to present all our service delivery for our clients based on Microsoft NAV that will help us, our client, to have the full capabilities of running their operations throughout all the different countries they operate, using the same language, using the same point of contact, therefore being able to have a fully global integrated solution for all their financial needs in every country they may operate. So I guess this is something that gives us the possibility of help our clients in this global world through the technology that we all may understand, even though in these tough times that is essential for any business to be run throughout the technology, because otherwise there won't be any type of service to be provided. So having said this, I guess that we could move on what we are, the purpose of our today's presentation. In our website, you'll find a summary that we have prepared, a kind of white paper we call, gathering all the tax compliance and labor measures taken by the different governments of more than 35 countries related to the COVID-19 crisis. We have tried to sum up in this white paper all the present measures taken, so we are encouraged to update it by every single week, so you may always find a fresh issue of fresh information, updated information that will give you at a hint, at a glance, the information you may need to know what is going on in the different countries you may be operating. But today we will be focusing on 3 specific countries of interest. On the one side, we will be discussing on Spain, then we will be discussing on the US, and finally we will close up by discussing on Mexico. So to begin with Spain. Spain, we all may know that it's been a country that has suffered extremely tougher phase of the crisis. We've been running this crisis with an extended number of casualties, we may say, and injured people. And just these very last days, we are somehow recovering. So we are starting to see some light in this dark season we've been through all these last weeks. So gradually, the government is taking measures to reopen the business activity, but it is taking long, it's taking time, and it is being divided by the different regions and territories that may be suffering the crisis in different manners. Obviously, the main purpose of all this activity is to ensure that the public health is maintained, and therefore there is no risk for a potential reactivity of the crisis of the virus that may entail that we had to take step backs with that, which is something that obviously no one's want to be in this situation anyway. So for the time being, I will try to sum up what's been going on the tax side in Spain. Just a short recap of what Spanish taxes mean. Main taxes for companies, for businesses there are corporate income tax. General tax rate we have, standard one, normal one is 25%. It's quite similar to the recent adjustment a few months ago that was taken in the US. So it's a kind of a average which is medium within the OECD, is 25%. You may find that this has been adapted in the last years to try to achieve a competitive position for our corporate income tax. On the other side, we have a VAT, value added tax of 21%, general standard rate. For those of you that may not know exactly how a VAT system works, it's a kind of sales tax. It is applicable on every single service or good that are sold throughout all the chain of distribution. So you have to take care of it as a businesses, either by paying to your supplier or collecting it for your customers, and the remaining balance will be collected by yourself and paid out to the tax authorities. It is irrelevant because obviously the higher the VAT rate is, the higher your prices should be in order to be competitive with your profitability levels that you require to your business. So having said this, how the tax authorities have faced this tax crisis. Obviously, businesses were faced to a lockdown. They had to shut a lot of establishments, and therefore they are facing extremely deep, I would say, problems of cash flow rather than other problems. The main problem a business may face right now is a cash flow, a cash problem. Without cash, even though a viable business may be forced to close. So trying to keep cash as the main concern would be a good solution for at least a good measure for the businesses. So in this scenario, the tax authorities in Spain have focused on small, middle-sized companies. They have been given, you may see it in the presentation, an extension of the filing period for the operating taxes such as VAT, but it is just applicable to those that are with a very small amount of turnover, those having less than 600,000 euros. Those companies were allowed to extend for a month the filing period. Again, it's a good measure. They gain 1 month to file taxes and pay taxes, but it is limited, very limited to those companies with this small amount of turnover. For companies with a slightly bigger amount of turnover, I mean those that have a turnover up to 6 million euro, they were given the possibility of ask for a postponement of the payment of the taxes. I mean, they were required to file the taxes on time, but once you have filed, you were allowed to ask for a postponement of payment, but with a limit of 30,000 euro globally, all taxes concerned and all months or filing periods. Again, this is a measure that obviously gave some liquidity, some cash advantages to those companies, but was very limited in terms of the companies involved and obviously on the amounts involved, because it was limited to 30,000 euros per company globally. Again, I repeat, which is the final situation. Rather than giving these extensions as it was done in other countries, there was additional measures in terms of financing, that there were some loans provided to the companies, but obviously everyone would prefer not to pay taxes, or at least to be allowed to postpone payment of taxes rather than having to ask for a loan to the bank and then use this money to pay taxes. Again, the situation is this what we have in Spain, and they have taken these measures that have been, as I have said, applicable only to those companies with a limited amount of turnover, which is basically the scope of those measures. In general terms, there was an extension of all filing periods for not for tax payment, but for any other type of activity related to tax. I mean, appeals, answers to the requirement from the tax office, other procedures in which you were given a deadline to file any documentation related to taxes. Well, there has been an extension today so far. It's been till the 30th of May, or if the period, the deadline given by the procedure itself were to be, I mean, longer, you would retain obviously the more favorable for your company. But this is the other measure taken, in which you have been given some time, additional time, to file answers or to file appeals or whatever action you have to file against or in a procedure initiated by the tax authorities. There is one thing that could be interesting, but again, it applies only to companies with a turnover lower than 6 million euro a year, which is the possibility of opting for making advance payments on behalf of, on account of the corporate income tax, rather than on the method based on the previous year tax, which is the standard one. Those companies are supposed to pay their corporate tax advance payments 3 times a year based on the tax they paid the last year. They have been now allowed to opt for a real tax-based option. This meaning that they would be allowed to calculate the amount of taxes to be paid on account of the current year tax, corporate tax, based on the real figure they have in the year 2020, which normally are likely to be lower, poorer than those that they got from 2019, and on which they were supposed to do these advance payments on the corporate tax. So I guess this is a good measure, but again, it only applies to those companies with turnover lower than 6 million euro a year. Finally, in terms of corporate compliance and commercial law, there is an extension which has an important effect on the deadline to prepare and file the financial statements. According to law, a company, a corporation it must prepare the financial statements within 3 months following the close of the year, and then it has following 3 months to by the shareholder meeting to approve those accounts and file the accounts with the commercial registry chamber. This has been extended. Therefore, while Spain remains under a state of alarm, which is right now till the following 24th of May, this period is not counting, and when it'll be closed, supposedly this 24th of May or whenever it could be closed, if it's extended, companies will be given 3 months as an additional time to prepare their annual accounts, financial statements. So this period is now open. So the companies that closed with the calendar year last year in 2018 are to wait till knowing when they will be due to prepare and file the corporate annual accounts, because this period is right now open. Whenever the state of alarm is concluded, they will be given these 3 months and they will be able to prepare the accounts, and obviously the board of directors will be able to have the meeting to approve them and so forth. This is an important measure also taken, which I guess is of relevance. There are another set of measures taken by the regional, we call in Spain comunidades autónomas, like the US states or something, that have some taxes on their own, but they are limited to normal stamp duties and transaction taxes on property. There has been some extensions in these filing periods, generally speaking. And with regard to local taxes that are on the local authorities' town halls scope, there has been some extensions and some bonuses or reliefs. Having said this, I guess that my recollection from the tax measures taken by the Spanish authorities so far, is that they have given some flexibility on the payment of the taxes, but very limited to small or medium-sized companies. Companies not belonging to this group, or I mean companies invoicing more than 6 million euros a year, have been given nothing in the tax field to benefit from the crisis. They have to pay the same amount, they have to pay on the same deadline. So this is something to have in mind. Only small companies may have been given some flexibility in terms of taxes. But this is a real evolving topic. Every single year almost we have a new regulation, not in the tax side but on the labor side. We will follow with the labor measures already taken. You will see in the presentation, the next slide, that basically there are a number of labor law measures taken. They all have to do with the possibility for the companies to temporarily suspend the labor contracts. I mean, the ERTE is the name in Spanish of this tool that allows companies to temporarily suspend the labor contracts. So they don't have to pay to the salaries to the employees that get a payment from the state. Rather, they maybe even be excused to pay the social security contributions. But this all is limited to a time frame that now will end by the 30th of June. It is important to know that this very morning it was published a new regulation on this that has extended this type of measures that can be claimed directly because of the COVID crisis, which is a kind of automated thing, that the companies will be allowed to have this ERTE, suspension of labor contracts on a temporary basis, open till the 30th of June. This has been a matter of discussion because normally business wanted to have this for a more for a larger period, I would say. They wanted to have at least this measure be applicable till the end of the year. The government was not so convinced, so they have arrived to this arrangement, but we have to wait and see, because it is likely that there will be changes in this field, which is very important for companies that obviously are not allowed to open right now, like retail companies or restaurants and entertainment companies that are not really allowed to open their facilities right now, so they are making zero money. That for them is crucial to be allowed to be flexible with the labor contracts they have to maintain. So we'll see. There was some, again, extension of the possibility of payment of social security contributions. It is also has been breaking down depending on the amount of the turnover of the companies. In general terms, again, small and medium-sized companies are those that can benefit for those extension of the payment of the social security contributions. There are also I would like to make the point with regard to the social security benefits a little. I would like to extend on this point a little longer, because you may see that the government, what really wanted is that the people affected by these measures, I mean by these ERTEs, are allowed to get the payment at least of the 100% of their salaries. But this is not possible. What is happening? That these people is receiving a subsidy from the state, but the company is excused of making, in addition of the salaries, the payment of the social contributions. And the amount of the exemption will be depending on the amount of the workforce that the company is holding at the moment in which the measures were taken, which was the 29th of February last 29th of February 2020. 29th, obviously, a weird day, you may say. So there were I mean, measures taken on behalf, I mean, on account of keeping the amount of workforce. I mean, those that try to avoid the possibility of employers dismissals. Right now, they have published this very morning new legislation on this that they may extend or may open the possibility for the employers to do layoffs of people on account of a number of reasons. This is something to be developed, and so far it was clear that no one could be hired. Could have this problem on account of the crisis, but right now it has to be review it. We have to check this very morning regulation published this very morning in the Spanish Public Gazette and see exactly what they want to adapt with this regulation. Obviously, the main point here is that if your company is under a bankruptcy, Chapter 11, as we may say in the US regulation, you can always have a dismissal procedure, but have to be taking care of this with these special procedures. So, in order to sum up the labor law regulation taken under the COVID crisis in Spain, I would remark 2 points. On the one side, the use of the mechanism of temporary suspension of labor contracts, ERTEs. They have been extensively used. Companies may benefit from them, this meaning that they don't have to pay their employees nor the social contributions during the period they are effective, and they can be effective till the 30th of June. This is a good point for companies affected by the crisis. And the other point that is relevant is how the dismissals can be produced once the crisis is at least this 6 months period, what was previously taken as a cooling period for dismissals, can be taken, which is very recent, and we have to review exactly how this will be affected. So these are the main points to be remarked out of the changes in the Spanish labor law regulations. Finally, and one final point, for companies operating in Spain, they must know that this morning, again, they have published a new regulation that will preclude those companies benefiting from these special labor law measures, I mean, suspension of labor contracts. They won't be allowed to distribute dividends to the extent that they have benefited from public aids in terms of the payment or not payment of social contributions. Those companies that have benefited from those public aids under this regulation will not be allowed to distribute dividends during 2020. Something that we all have to have in mind in order to do our financial planning. Okay, so I guess this is the main things I wanted to comment with you relating to taxes and labor law things in Spain. So we can now jump into the US. Obviously, I'll remain around for any questions you may have on Spain at the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Augusto. Good morning, everyone. I wanted to thank the Chamber for hosting the webinar. I'm going to try to cover the most interesting measures taken by the different institutions in the US regarding taxation, tax compliance, and labor matters. Although we all know that the tax map in the US is very complicated, local authorities have the power to impose taxes on their own, states, counties, and the federal level. So what I'm going to do is try to give you some examples and tips on what to look for if you're affected by any of this extension of the deadlines or any of the benefits that we are going to comment. The first big measure that you might already know, because this was a while ago, was taken by the Treasury Department and was the postponement of the deadline of the income tax at federal level for the fiscal year 2019. As you may all know, the original deadline at federal level was April 15th. And the deadline was extended to July 15th without the need of filing for extension. This postponement deadline does not involve any penalties or interest as long as the tax due is paid by July 15th. Interest and penalties will accrue after that date. Sorry. This measure leaves out partnerships LLCs and S corporation tax returns, which were due before the crisis was started, and they were due March 15th. Also, at federal level, it's very important to remember that the estimated tax payments for the 2020 fiscal year, which were due April 15th and for the first quarter and June 15th for the second, have both also been extended to July 15th. The third and fourth quarter installments remain the same for now, the deadline, the due dates. Also, very important to note that your state tax filing or payment deadlines may be different. You know that every state have their own capability to state their own deadlines. So some have aligned with the extensions of at federal level, but some haven't. I'm going to give you some examples of both cases. As we are not able to cover the 50 states specifications, what I'm going to do is give you a few examples at state level. Although if you have any questions about other states, other counties, other cities, we would be happy to answer those. I am going to take as my first example the state of Florida. The income tax return original deadline for the Florida state for companies with its fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019 was May 1st, and it has been postponed to June 1st. This is one of the examples that the deadlines don't match at federal and state level. So now, what happens if your fiscal year closing is not December 31st? The state of Florida normally uses the calculation for the deadline of the Florida corporate income tax as the first day of the 5th month after the closing of the fiscal year. Therefore, if your fiscal year ends at February 29th, 2020, the deadline was, before the extension, July 1st. Now, applying the postponement rule, the deadline is moved to August 3rd. As I mentioned earlier, this is very important. The federal corporate income tax estimated payments for the first and second quarter were delayed. We talked about it. Now, the state of Florida hasn't yet postponed the filing of the Florida corporate income tax estimated payments. What would be pagos a cuenta in Spain. They remain due between the April 1st and July 15th. What about Florida sales and use tax? Well, either if you're on monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually regime, Florida sales tax returns are always due by the 20th of the month following the reporting period. The state has issued an order that states that taxpayers not adversely affected by the COVID-19 outbreak are required to continue to file and pay taxes collected during March. Or during March, for the period of March, they would be due on the 20th of April. And for taxpayers who have been adversely affected by the COVID-19 outbreak, it extends the returns to April 30th. So the state is giving you 10 additional days. Now, what is considered adversely affected? Business needed, and this is a definition by the state of Florida department, what is considered companies adversely affected are business that needed to close and those that have had less than 75% of March, comparing to March 2019, sales tax collections. That is the definition, very clear compared to other countries' definitions of companies affected. So let's go deeper in the Florida example. I have taken one of the counties to see the measures at county level. Property tax is one of the taxes imposed at county level in this case. For the 2019 tax, the original due date was March 31st, and it was extended to April 15th. I hope you all met the deadline because it is already due, even with the extension. And I'm going to give you another example. Oh, I just realized that the presentation is not even showing here. Sorry for that. Let's move to our next example. Some of our clients are based in Alabama, so I took that state as another example. Alabama's corporate income tax return original deadline met the federal level deadline, so it was April 15th, and now it has been moved to July 15th. So matching deadlines, due dates between federal level and state level. For the Alabama corporate income tax payments, estimated payments, same extensions applicable, matching federal deadlines. Now, for sales tax, the Department of Revenue is waiving late payment penalties, both for small retail businesses whose monthly retail sales during the previous calendar year averaged 62,000 or less, and restaurants, among others. There's a list of companies, and restaurants are the main classification of those companies. So those have been benefited by the waiving of the late payment penalties. This relief applies to taxpayers who are unable to timely pay their February, March, and April sales and lodgings tax liabilities. 2020, of course. Okay, hold on. Now, the relief is automatic for small retailers and Sector 72 businesses. These are the list of companies that the state of Alabama classified, which are those in the food prep industry, restaurants, snack producers, and everything, who file their February, March, and April sales tax returns. Deeper in Alabama, we are going to take the Tuscaloosa County example. Property tax is charged at county level, and the deadline is October 31st of each year. And therefore, as we all hope that this pandemic situation does not last until October, it remains the same. Now, setting aside all these dates, counties, and all that information, what I want you to remember is that the tax map, as mentioned in the US, is very complicated. There are we all know that, there are too many institutions capable and eligible for collecting their own taxes. Each state has their own powers, its county. So what I wanted to tell you is that for you to be able to benefit from these extensions, what you need to look for is county level taxes, local level taxes, state and federal. I am not going to try to cover all these CARES measures that were taken by the government, the PPP program, or the eligible employers paycheck program. I think those were covered by some of our legal colleagues in a previous webinar with the chamber. And based on the tax compliance and labor measures, this is the information that I want to briefly give you about the United States. I'm gonna let my colleague Silverio go through the Mexican measures. Thank you.
Thank you, Ana. Thank you, Ana. Thank you to the Chamber for organizing and hosting this webinar. And yeah, also I want to mention that to all our clients and people in in our webinar today. Just stay safe, and I hope all you are doing very well out there. Let's just mention some of the key figures about Mexico that the government have published in the past few weeks. Just to mention that Mexico is one of the countries in Latin America that is not going so fast with the measures and benefits and like kind of help for taxpayers and corporations. It's mostly the measure that they have taken. It's for individuals. It's not so much for corporation. Actually, they didn't. The people and the corporation, they were actually expecting for the annual income tax for corporations to be extended. It wasn't extended. That people that they were hoping and waiting for those measures to be taken, but unfortunately the government decided to not to do it. And well, these are the measures. So as I was saying, the measures are more for people, for labor side and social security side than for corporations. Also, the government claim just to give like in a conference press like relief or to make sure this uncertainty is not going further, that no more taxes were created or they are going to be created, and the actual ones that we have right now are not going to increase the rate. So well, we hope it keeps like this, because to standardize or not to have so much impact about this unfortunate situation that we are facing right now. Let's start with the tax compliance taxation measure that the government is taking. The administration service, SAT, which is the governmental institution in Mexico, in charge of the tax collection and everything. They suspend all the physical meetings and appointments that were supposed to held or to hold all these days since the outbreak started. And now they are just they have actually a little bit of appointments, but just for special and essential processes, such as the certificate for individuals or corporation as a legal representative to tramit or to make the procedure of the certificate. So if without that you are not able to present the tax return in the website of the public administration. So that's one of the essential services that the tax administration is continue servicing, but you have to have an appointment previously, and there are right now very limited. So as a recommendation, if you are the following days your tax certificate is going to expire, I recommend you to have a look at the website with your accountant or a tax team, just to make sure you have an appointment, because there right now it's very limited. So it's a big controversy right now. In the terms of conditions of audits and other appointments, and the legal period is on hold for most of the procedures. Some of them are delayed, so some of them are on hold. So another thing that people is doing right now is contacting the person in charge of the procedure that they have with the tax authorities, in order to see how long the deadline is going to be extended, in case if the tax authorities they have already a deadline established. So it's suspended. So for until this pandemic lasts. Another measure that the tax administration is doing, as I said at the beginning, they're not taking so much taking care, let's say in that way, taking so much care of the corporation, but they are taking care a little bit more of individuals. So the extension of the annual income tax return for individuals, it was extended. It was supposed to be the deadline the last day of April, and now the new deadline is the last day of June. I mean the 3rd of June. So this is extended, and with the possibility, in case for these individuals have income tax to pay for the fiscal year 2019, the possibility to extend or to defer in 6 payment the income tax. This is not new, actually. It was established already in the law. The government gives that benefit for individuals to defer in 6 months the annual income tax, with obviously with some interest, and as a measure to help. So it was so much like a reminder for individuals. And also, as I was explaining, to make all these tax returns online, you must be able to have your electronic firm or tax certificate. And as the appointments are very limited, in some cases there are no appointments in the tax revenue office, the federal government establish, or they made able a website where you can actually do this procedure by online. And let's move on, and let's mention some of the key figures about labor. The federal government has established that for people, as salary, they earn the minimum wage to grant or to make sure that these people that they consider as vulnerable population, they can the tax payer as the employer, it's obligated to pay at least 1 month of the salary of this population vulnerable. And also the deferral of social security payments according with the already established criteria. Also, as I mentioned, with the annual income tax for individuals, this is not new, and in the social security law, it's already established that you can actually ask or make the procedure to the social security office, the deferral of the payments for social security, which is in the institute in charge, which is called IMSS. Recently, with the memo number 213, the Social Security Administration is offering advice, online advisory service for these people or small and medium businesses that are interested in this deferral of payments. And they are established in the website, and the official website. It's you can find all the manuals and all the requirements that are necessary to comply if you are interested in this deferral of payments. Also, they are increasing a lot the online services, such as maternity leave, the sick leaving, and as much they are improving a lot the website platforms, just to avoid for people to make queue in the institute and offices. Also, another measure really important in the recent days, excuse me, the Infonavit, which is the institute in charge of the housing tax collection, which is one of the benefits very famous in Mexico. They are giving extension of the payments, such as for employees. So they divided in 2 sectors: for employers with more than 250 employees and less than 250 employees. With employers with less of 250 employees, the bimensual, let me check. Yeah, the bimensual tax return, which is the second bimensual or bi-monthly. Sorry, the second bi-monthly of this fiscal year, which corresponds to March and April. It was extended until September of this year. And the third bi-monthly tax return, which is corresponds to May and June, is going to be extended until September as well, for less than 250 employees. If the corporation has more than 250 employees, they just have pronounced, or they just have said that the bi-monthly tax return, which corresponds to March and April, is going to be extended the deadline to pay until July of this year. So this is for 250 employees. Also, you actually have to give notice of this extension if the employer is interested. And the deadline of this notice is until the last day of June. I mean, the 3rd of June in both cases, if you have more than 250 employees or less than 250 employees. Also, they have given or make available manuals or procedures for individuals with credits, of housing credit for the population, just as all these tools are new, they are giving a lot of information and documents to make sure that all the people it's able to make the procedure online. Important to mention that all these extensions don't cover the personal credits. So I'm just talking about the tax, how in this case the housing tax, which is in charge of the employer, not for the credits that the employer retains or make the withholding tax to the employees. As we all know, if you're familiar with the Mexican regulation, the employer make a holding or a withhold of some percentage of the credit if that person have a credit. So these credits are not under these new criteria. So basically, in simple terms, you have to pay the withholding tax that you are doing to your employees. And in case of the Social Security, you actually have to pay the full withholding tax of the Social Security of your employees, and you are just able to have of the total tax 80% as to make able to defer that amount. Regarding the Social Security, if the company has for 12 months extend, there's an interest rate of 1.26%. From 12 months to 24 months, there are interest rate of 1.53, and more than 24 months to 48 at interest rate of 1.82. Okay, so pretty much the government is not losing so much money or giving these benefits. It's actually just making sure it has a little bit of collection and applying some interest just in case those benefits are taken for the corporation. As I said, in my personal perspective, it's just a measure to help corporations for those who are struggling problems of liquidity, but not so much as a relief of all these tax. Okay, as additional information, I would like to mention that there are some other special criteria that the National Financial Commission they have a claim. They have established like special accounting criteria for special sectors, such as those ones that are up to the public, the National Commission. And also just a reminder, a few days ago, the federal government of Mexico announced that they finished the new update of the trade agreement between the European Union. So this is really interesting because now a lot of exports and imports are going to benefit of this trade agreement. So at the moment of making importation or exportations, the taxes are going to be significantly reduced. Another thing important to consider for companies, it's really important, or those companies who are have liabilities in another currency, it's since there are so much uncertainty. Obviously, the FX it's increasing, is very versatile during these months. So just keep a look at that, and also the federal government in with the measure to control or to help companies, the Central Bank of Mexico, they just established a maximum tax rate of 6% as a benchmark reference. So that's everything from my side. I think we're going to continue with some questions, I guess.
Okay, Silverio, Anna, thank you very much for your interesting pieces on your respective countries. We've been almost 1 hour now discussing on tax and labor things around the COVID crisis. Let's go through the panel of questions we have. We have a bunch of questions here. So just to try to keep on schedule, I'll pick a few of them. We got almost 10 or 15, and I'll start by one for Mexico. Silverio, we have a number of them, but they are maybe it's a very specific point. Perhaps you may give us some light, or at least comment on the social distancing impact that it may have on this business that so powerful in Mexico, that is maquiladoras. You may know that if there is expected some kind of a relief or action more specific for maquiladoras to the knowledge you may have, or you may expect there for this important business you have in Mexico.
Yeah, this sector specifically it's really big in Mexico right now. As far as I know, the government haven't said so much about this specific sector. As I said, the government is not giving so much light about help or benefits for this crisis for corporations. So maybe it's important to have a look at the specific sector, because there's a institution who regulates all these specific sector in case there are some news. But right now, the government haven't said so much for a specific sector. Right now, it's just they are focusing pretty much in individuals and social security, just to make sure that all the health system is working and is not like overcrowded.
Okay, good to know. Anyway, obviously we have to stay down and see what's going on.
Exactly.
Because we've been saying from the very beginning, this crisis is an evolving one, and regulations are changing. So we have to keep an eye. That's why we have prepared our white paper, and we try to keep it updated almost every single week or something, because otherwise it's not possible to follow through. Okay, got a couple of 3 or 4 questions for Spain, and I will ask myself this exercise, and okay, I'll pick just the easy ones. Okay, I'll be honest. And we have a number of them dealing with the ERTEs, to what extent they will apply, and how in practice things like okay, I I asked for a ERTE. We remember this specific tool of suspending the labor contracts for a given time. And what will happen if I able just to reopen with 50% of my workforce? These are questions that are open right now. Obviously, every single ERTE that is been asked under this specific regulation, when it ends, which is the 30th of June, I take the advantage of this question to answer another one. The closing date so far is the 30th of June. We have to be refiled. If we want to keep our suspension of labor contracts after the 30th of June, we will have to refile and reapply for these specific measures now, applying with the specifics of the situation that will happen after the 30th of June, when it's supposed to be the last day of the state of alarm. So this on the labor side for Spain. There are a couple of questions related to tax measures, measures that haven't been taken. There is good, I mean, very good, very good questions relating to the corporate income tax, because obviously the clever attendants have realized that if we are going in Spain to extend the period to prepare and file the financial statements, I mean, the annual accounts, I mean, the accounts of a given company, how this will be affecting the corporate tax filing. Is there anything about it? The answer is so far, no. I mean, the deadline to file corporate income tax, regardless of the fact that the annual accounts have been or haven't been prepared and filed according to these new rules, are not haven't been extended so far. So the 25th of July, for those companies closing with the calendar year, will remain to be so far the deadline to file corporate income taxes. Okay, we had some other question with regard to the US. It has to do with kind of discount days on the non-resident. It is not so clear. Perhaps, Anna, you can give us some light here. What's the regulation on this?
Yeah, sure. I forgot to mention that the IRS is providing relief to individuals that are considered or should be under the consideration of non-residency. So what the IRS is providing is these 60 days of discount of the days spent in the US due to this crisis. So let's say that you are traveling between Spain and the US, you got caught in the US without being able to return. The 60 days of the pandemic will not be counted in your calculation of 180 in Spain or in the calculation of the US. That's the measure that the IRS issued.
Okay, Anna, thank you. Okay, I guess that's a good recollection of question we had. So we are about time. I mean, it's the 16. Okay, the time we had prepared for the presentation, so we can go back to the chamber. Arantxa, please. And first, I would like to again to thank you all for this opportunity and give you our best wishes for the time to come. And obviously, we remain at your disposal for any further questions. You will get our presentation. I guess it'll be distributed, so you will have easy access to our emails, address, and everything. And on our website, outside this website, you'll find all information. So thank you very much. Arantxa, please.
Thank you very much to the three of you and to Oksadi for joining us today and speaking about tax compliance and labor during COVID-19. It has been a pleasure having you with us today. As I already mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we will be sending a follow-up email, which will include this webinar recorded as well as the presentation for Oksadi and their contact information. If any of the attendees wish to, you may contact with them directly. Once again, thank you to all of the attendees for being with us today, and we hope to see you soon. during our next webinar. To know more about our future seminars online, please check our website. It's www.spainuschamber.org. And that would be it. Hope you have a nice day, and thank you very much again for being with us today. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Adiós.